Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Meet Zinnia.
You are being very polite to someone who is attempting to kill us.
Her wife, Saffron.
You know I'm wildly, madly in love with you.
And their best friend, Goldie.
Glad we didn't miss all the fun.
Swords in hand, they defend their city from the worst of humanity.
I am Lord Buxton Blue.
Equity Electric.
Herr Haig. Virgil Walcott. Vicious Suave.
Follow their adventures on the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society audio drama podcast. Available now at truestory.fm/swashbuckling.
What's up, most excellent friends?
It's Chrissy and Nathan from the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast.
It's a podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian
And their most excellent guests
adventure their way through the 80s movies we think we love
or might have missed
with our grown-up eyes to see how they hold up.
Join us for delightful discussion,
Rollicking recaps.
ratings, and deep-cut recommendations.
Plus, members get some extra fun chit-chat with the hosts after the show.
Download the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast today at truestory.fm.
Or find it wherever the finest podcasts are stored.
And do remember to keep the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast motto in mind.
Be excellent to each other and...
Party on.
Party on, dudes.
Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a weekly podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 5-minute segments and then examine them in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Storywell podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle.
Yes, sir.
Did you know that the Ars Amatoria, more commonly referred to as the Art of Love, is an instructional series of 3 books by the Roman poet Ovid, written in the year 2 AD.
The year 2.
The year 2. Book 1 tells a man how to find a woman. Book 2 tells him how to keep her. And Book 3 gives women advice on how to win and keep the love of a man. Kind of amusing, but kind of par for the course for men. Let me offer you a quote. She won't come down from thin air, straight down from clear blue skies. You must go to where she is. Just as the hunter knows just where the stag will find his snare and knows the gnashing boar's most likely lair, first, you need to know where the girls are. I think that our friend Killian here has read this book. I think he...
I feel like there needs to be a needle drop there of where the girls are.
You just go to their office and you woo them with their technology, with your technology, as they are the leader of a technological company. And apparently it works really well because someone here in this scene is, has kind of lost their bearings.
I think the bearings are on the table.
Oh,
hey!
see?
So look at that. Some big brain jokes here as we talk about minute 16 of Iron Man 3 from the far off year of 2013, directed by Shane Black and written by Shane Black and Drew Pearce. Because yes, we are beginning where we left off, which is in the brain. The brain. There's nothing like the brain. Hearts and lungs are simply tinker toys when stacked against the brain. Insane? I'm insane about the brain. No invention in the universe is equal to the brain. Those are, of course, our lyrics from The Brain, a song from the Young Frankenstein musical written by Mel Brooks. Because we begin inside of Killian's brain. So he is in the middle of his presentation to Pepper, showing this thing he's brought up, a connection to it. Before we get into that, I think one thing that we haven't not yet talked about, and I think it's on display here, is the music. So the song we're hearing during the rest of the next couple of minutes is actually called Extremis, and it's written by Mr. Brian Tyler. So Brian Tyler has 123 credits on IMDb. His first big break was in 2001 with a little movie called Frailty. Did you ever see that?
No.
Frailty is a very dark movie, but it is really good. It's Bill Paxton actually directed it. It was and appears in it as well. Matthew McConaughey. It is sort of almost like a serial killer origin story It's a really I'd say thriller, but it's a really dark thriller. But it's a very good movie. I would recommend anybody who's of that ilk. In 2012, Mr. Tyler composed the orchestration for the Universal Studios logo when they redid that whole image thing. And then in the future, this is his first time in the MCU, but soon he'll go on to create something that everyone who's listening to this has heard, which is the Marvel Studios logo. So that's Brian Tyler's music right there.
Brian Tyler, what's my favorite movie that he scored?
Yeah, what is?
Bubba Hotep.
Oh, nice choice. Bubba Hotep. I'm a big fan of that movie as well.
Yeah, and if you're listening, you're like, Bubba Hotep? Go look it up. Go watch it. It is absurd, but it is wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. My favorite scores of his is actually the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh.
He actually, I thought, did a wonderful job of taking the original video game music and doing full orchestrations of it and having it incorporate into it. Like, especially I've watched the video. I know the sort of the basic Mario stuff, but people have gone through and found, oh, this is actually from a level of Super Mario Brothers 3, and they would go and show and like match up exactly where he got awesome. The music from. I mean, it really is more. And hearing the sort of like what we grew up on, that dee 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 dee, and having it be in this full orchestra, da 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 da. I mean, it was like nice. Even just that was stirring in the theater, and it ended up being a pretty good movie too. So so back into and then just like I said, that piece of music is really beautiful, and it plays under this whole scene as we have Killian and Pepper getting very close, so much so that he asks her to pinch him. Mm-hmm. This would be a good time for a Bare Naked Ladies song drop, but I'm not going to. And he does. All of a sudden, the brain all around them sparkles to life. And he says that she has activated his primary somasensory cortex, which once again I looked up, and that is exactly great. They had done their homework. That part of the brain controls the ability to perceive touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. Like, it does more than what he says, which is just pain, but it does all of those things. And so that's what lights up essentially what did it, because then we find out that it's his brain that we're inside, and this is a live feed for the little sensor that we saw put on the behind his ear in the last minute. So
isn't this, with all apologies to Ovid, I mean, come on. This is like you invite her into your brain. You invite her to do something to you to show its fireworks. I mean, that's literally what this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is pretty smooth.
This is pretty smooth. I can tell you that they talk a little bit in the commentary about a disused plot point that didn't really end up. They say that up until the very last minute, they sort of had this as a subplot, and they cut it out entirely. The idea was that Shane Black had this idea that Extremis makes you an extreme person, that it amplifies all the human parts about you, and that you actually have like a pheromone essentially that makes people. And he said that they even talked about having a thing of like, women literally like turning away from their husbands when a guy like that, or like like a guy driving his car off when a woman with her by like that. So there was some sort of physical reaction that this was a thing. And so I think there may be some of that left over in here, which is why Pepper seems a little bit, overly mystified sort of towards the end. We'll see that a little bit more, but she's really close to him. I think that she's getting, that's,
I mean, the whole scene of this, in fact, one of the really funny I think one of the little nuanced moments is that they're on the table, right? They're standing on this table. They're inside his brain. He's got a little remote. He puts this left hand over her shoulder, and then he goes to put the remote in the left hand from the right hand because he's going to use his right hand. And of course, he's like hugging her. And it's just, I envisioned, when you took a girl out to the theater and you were like, oh, am I stretching? And my arms around you. It was smooth, but awkward. And I think you got a little bit of his, like, I saw that moment. And she doesn't respond to it, but I saw that moment as a little bit of like, yeah, he's smooth now. Yeah, he went through therapy and did all his stuff. He's still a little awkward. There's still a little awkwardness under the surface. Under the surface.
He is playing it cool, but so then as it turns that he does sort of a pinch zoom maneuver, and we see him slide in and focus on one specific area of the brain. And so he goes and finds, and he says, there's an unused portion of the brain. He says, essentially, it is a empty slot or something could go on, which is like, what's interesting. Like, it seems like the brain is pretty valuable real estate.
Right.
It's like they're weird that there would be a part that was unused. Maybe there's something more to that. But meanwhile, as we're watching this and being a little creeped out by it, the other person watching being a little creeped out by it is Happy Hogan, who's watching this whole thing unfold and not really liking what he's seeing. Yeah, see, it's the point we still don't know what the status is, but he does immediately call Tony to see what's going on. Or no, I'm sorry, Tony calls him because that's when he answers on the video. You can see there's the whole joke about him having it too low. Oh, is this the forehead of security?
Forehead of security, because he doesn't know how technology works. By the way, I laugh when you were saying at the beginning, the big brain.
Yeah.
This is clearly, we went from the big brain to the no brain.
You're still giving no slack to
because Happy is killing me on so many levels. And like, okay, again, head of security, and he doesn't understand anything, which is pretty evident by what's about to happen here with the tablet, and he doesn't get it.
Yeah. So we have the two of them are having a conversation, and we get the idea that they're not talking as much as they used to.
Nope.
So there is a little bit of awkwardness that's going on. Also in this conversation, we find out that that Tony, or we will find out that Tony is not involved in Stark Industries anymore. Like he had moved on. He says, "You're not my boss" at one point. So I guess it's really one of those things where like you don't work together anymore, so they don't see each other anymore. So there is a bit of awkwardness between, what used to be employer-employee, but also friends for a very long time.
Well, and I got to tell you, like when he says "You're not my boss," and just the whole exchange at the beginning, again, some of the surprising candor of this movie is that not only did they not see him like friends, there is animosity. Like you can see, and Happy talks about it. He's upset about not being taken seriously. At the same time, though, seems like he's putting in a lot of effort to be more relevant. This is what kills me about him in this whole sequence. But anyway.
We as we sort of move into minute 17 and they're on this conversation, he talks about how people didn't take him seriously when he introduced himself as Iron Man's bodyguard. Right. Which is also a nice little comic book homage too, because that literally, the whole joke of Iron Man at the start was Tony Stark used to say that Iron Man was his bodyguard when he was pretending that he wasn't Iron Man. So it was a nice little sort of wink nod. And as we begin in minute 17, then we also see then the rest of the basement, which has been redone. Like we didn't see any of this stuff in Iron Man 2. They have added a lot. So he walks down from where we had seen him working on the Mark 42 in the proper workshop, and then into what we did as a wine cellar. And as he's doing in the wine cellar, we also see the suit being lowered down on an elevator as it's going by, as they're having this conversation is going on, which once again is some very nice filmmaking. Like this is like you're giving us a sense of geography and stuff going on while we're paying attention to what's happening in this conversation. But there also is foreshadowing a lot of things, because and I had sort of forgotten that they not only did they allude to at the beginning, but then here we see as the suit goes down during this conversation, the floor opens up and there are more vestibules down there with more shadowy shapes.
There's a lot of suits.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
There's a lot of suits
than we had thought. And I had sort of forgotten that they had sort of tipped their hand that easy. I guess because I remember being really surprised when a bunch of suits showed up at the end, but they really were planting this early on that like, oh yeah, it's not just the 6 or 7, there's more than that.
Well, and this was a good thing. I'm glad you said the geography, we're big fans of that. I remembered how tough it was to understand the geography of Tony's place in Iron Man 2 when we did the previous season.
Right.
There are some real wide shots in these few minutes we're on.
Yeah.
You get the geography of the center column, so to speak, of his place.
Right.
And you also got the visual, like you just said, is great, is that Tony's vulnerability, Tony's secrets are buried deep down inside. And that's literally what you see in this moment of the film. And that as his suit descends, so is Tony's his confidence, his understanding of himself. We're seeing that all play out.
Yeah, it must be very climate controlled as well, because as we go down, we see that these sort of basement 1, basement 2. I don't know. Does it go the opposite way, right? Like when you're in a building,
0,
it goes
0, A,
1, 2,
and
3.
B.
And when you go down, then it's like they're counting that way. So B1 essentially is a wine cellar, and so in addition to all the other tech stuff he had below, he has all the wine here as well. And so as he's going through, and we see him using the Stark phone, which even by this point is still not widely used in the MCU. So it seems like we first saw that in Iron Man 2 when he sort of did the taking control during the meeting with the Joint Chiefs. And now we have, and still he's the only one who uses this phone, because obviously you can see that Happy is working on a tablet. I did a bunch of research trying to figure out what that tablet is. Did you manage to discover what it was?
We have information about the phone, but not the tablet.
Yes, phone. Yeah, phone. We got that one. But I looked through all, and there wasn't that many. So I will say, like in the year 2010, I looked through tablets, and there are only about a dozen tablets out there. This is not. It's not an iPad that he's on. But it is something, and I found a couple different ones, but I could never find the one that had the stuff in the right. Almost all the tablets that were not iPads all had the cameras in the center of the tablet. There's none of them I could find had it off to the side like the one is. So I don't know if this was just a prop that they had built or just an obscure piece of tech that we on there. However, we do know one thing: it runs Skype.
Yeah. Product placement again. A lot of product placement. This is not the last time we're going to mention this. It's coming up soon.
It's as they bring up there, you can see there's a little logo of Skype on there. So for those of you who don't mind the salty language, I would recommend going on to YouTube and look for the conversation with the Skype CEO, which is our Brendan Lee Mulligan from Dropout, doing a thing, ranting about how annoyed he is that Zoom won during the whole pandemic thing when Skype has been there the whole time. It's very funny. I wanted to pull audio from it, but it is so foul-mouthed. I couldn't find any of it that I can do without heavily bleeping it. But it's a good 5 minutes. If you've not seen it, it's very good. So as we were saying, we see that Happy is then trying to show Tony what's going on and does not know how to flip the camera, which as people who work in IT, we know those users.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not your head of security for crying out loud.
Of a tech company. Like you'd hope that they have at least the ability to like see the little picture on the screen and press it to flip around too. So
killing me.
A lot of this is really just dialogue stuff there. That's the thing is we're sort of used to digging in on obscure technology and all these things. This is a conversation. So it's really, it's much more difficult to come up with a lot of interesting factoids when it's just two conversations happening simultaneously.
Well, and you get excited because you see Tony flip around with the screen. He's got little holograms. The
brings up some information on Killian on the top. We found out that there's a second screen mode to the Stark phone. That was neat. He's bringing up some information really quickly.
Much more than the head of security again.
Yeah, and so once again, we don't know the status of Happy says something I think is important. He says, "This woman is the best thing that's ever happened to you, and you're just ignoring her." I was like, "Oh, so there is some trouble in there." And then he continues on with as he's still complaining about this stuff. He says, "Now you're off with the super friends."
Did you not get a DC lawyer alert right there?
I know. I wanted to know.
Like, whoa! I still
universe. How are you allowed to just?
You can't say that.
Yeah, so
Paging Ted Knight.
Yeah, I'm not going to. As it was just a casual reference, we're not going to do a deep dive on that one. But through the 70s and 80s, there was a very popular cartoon show called the Super Friends. That's made up of the Justice League, but they were the Super Friends with the voice of Ted Knight as their announcer. So now we have moved away from the brain, and now Pepper and Killian are sitting down, and they're getting much more into this is the business pitch portion of it, where the two of them are, and he is then now explaining what it is that he wants to do. And he's talking about hacking the DNA of living things in order to optimize them, to make them healthier, to live longer, and all things. And it is interesting that you're with a woman that you know to be highly intelligent, who's running a technology company, which used to be a weapons company, and you didn't think she would make this connection. And she says, this sounds highly weaponizable. It's just sort of like, yeah, man, like, did you know? Did you think that she'd just be like, oh yes, you could make people live longer. That's great. But if you can make any changes, there's a reason why there's a literal national ban on this. And I'm not going to do one. I do like that he tries to flatter her, and saying that, well, Tony wouldn't see this, but now there's a new genius on the throne. I was like, oh, okay.
and right to her heart when he's like, but there's a new genius, but less ego.
Yeah.
And I mean, that speaks directly to Pepper's sensibilities.
Yeah.
So she's getting reeled in.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see that at that point, I don't know what it is about that, but at that point you can see the door shut. Right. Like whatever was going on, she's like, okay, well, hey, thanks for coming in, but we're done.
So what did you think of that? Did you think it was because she's appealing to her own lack of ego, or did that phrase just immediately make her think of Tony and she went, hey, whoa, I like my Tony?
No, I really don't think that she's thinking about him in this. I really think that she is very much in CEO mode at this point. Oh, okay. I honestly don't even think that she's taking Tony into account in this. Like, she's literally thinking of Stark, and like, it's gone from like charming to creepy, and she realizes, I don't think I want to be in business with this guy, especially knowing what this would lead to, what path.
Well, or is it that she hears that and she thinks, well, this Tony would immediately appeal. That would be appealing to Tony. Yeah. I'm not Tony. It's a hard no.
Yeah.
And that's how that happens.
In the comic, it is 100% what does happen, because as soon as Tony finds out about Extremis, he's like, well, inject me with it. Like,
great.
One of the first times he gets a vial of it, tracks it, there's a whole thing tracking it down. He's like, yeah, shoot me up.
Jeez.
So yeah, that definitely is not the way things are going here. So we get to minute 19, and the meeting is over, essentially. It is going away, and they're about to leave. And Killian says that his father used to say, failure is the fog through which we glimpse triumph. And there's a beat, and then both of them go, I don't know what that means. He's like, yeah, I never understood what that means either.
Wait, what do you mean you don't understand what it means?
Yeah, I was saying, like, that's not really an obscure phrase. Failure is the fog through which we glimpse triumph.
It's very clear. A failure gives you the perspective so that you can see things in a new light and go on to succeed. That's not, she acts like as if, I don't know what you're talking about either. Okay, come on. Yeah. It's pretty clear what he meant. I think they're being stupid to each other.
Yeah, but then we see a little bit more of that same spark then, as he says, I'm sure I'll see you again, Pepper, and leans over and gives her a kiss on the cheek, and you can see she's a little bit like, whoa. And I wonder how much of this is that pheromone thing and how much of it is sort of left over from that initial sort of flirty thing at the start.
No, but I got to tell you, knowing that element now of the story, of the potential plot, that makes a lot more sense of her reaction, because it almost feels like she loses some level of control after she has been a hard no. She knows that this is not the right thing to pursue. She does feel like it looks like as if she's been under the influence of something.
Because when Happy comes up to her to tell her car is ready, and there's sort of like like
she's caught.
And she says, I forgot my thing. I have to get my thing. Yeah, it makes you wonder. So, all right. So before we sort of move away from Starkman, what do you think? Do you think Killian was serious about this meeting? Like, we know, if we're as we project forward and backwards,
sure.
Like sort of tracking the supervillain part of this. We know that. I hope nobody's listening to this, never having watched Iron Man 3, but we know that Killian is the Mandarin.
Right.
So he what?
Spoiler!
Did you not get that far? So he has been manufacturing all of these things and has been doing all this stuff. So do you think that there's a version where he comes and says, hey, I want to be in business with you, and Pepper says yes, and then none of the events of Iron Man 3 happen?
Oh, no,
Like,
I think because wait a minute.
Espionage stuff too, or do you think this was just him sort of testing the waters before he moves into his next phase?
As I am navigating this film again, only for the second time.
Sure.
And I am going through it, and I'm saying, okay, I know what happens, but I'm trying to figure it out. Am I wrong to assume he is there to honestly see if he can use his Riz and get her to help him? Is he doing this because he's got problems and he needs a wider network of technology to try to fix them?
Yeah.
That's my understanding of what's happening here.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. I hadn't thought about
because they've got mistakes. That's what the whole issue of the Mandarin. The Mandarin is a facade to cover up the mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, right? And like that's what this is. So yeah, it's an act, but he's really just trying to say, hey, I need more knowledge. I need more technology.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I considered that, but I think that's probably a good read because you can't show weakness.
Oh no.
And he couldn't come to her and say, look, I'm on to something, but I'm having a lot of problems and I need the help with that. He has to come as like, this is the next big thing, babe. Of course. You need to get on board.
No, and this is again a theme. This is very similar themes to Iron Man 2, right? Yeah. With Justin Hammer. Like you've got to have that bravado. You got to have that cover. Now, to answer your question, what would have happened? What if she just said, "Okay, we're in. Yeah. Let's do it." Well, no, the same things would have happened because it's still a mess. And I think the same problem would have happened. I think would have been an interesting what if he came to her and said, "Look, I fudged up. Mm-hmm. I got problems," right? Almost not to foreshadow a conversation that's about to happen. Yeah. Where there is vulnerability confessed, and now she's willing to partake of that because she's willing to help journey with the person who is having the problems. That would have been an interesting story because then what happens to Tony? I could see them becoming maybe what she would have found in Killian, what she is so far not finding in Tony.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a what if. That's a what if episode.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. So as they then go to leave, we see Killian is rolling in the 2010 Land Rover Range Rover Series 3 L322. Yes, we're still on that. Yes. I'm not going to get into all the specific stuff. We're just not gearheads.
It's just a normal Land Rover.
Yeah. Yeah. So as she goes to Abby had brought her car around. We see then Abby is actually, as much as we've been, especially you have been bagging on him, thing, he still noticed something's up. Like he's still not quite.
Oh my God. It's like it's telegraphed. Like, how does he not know something's up?
Yeah, so then he goes and takes a picture of the thing. And what does he use?
Are you speaking of the Alcatel One Touch Idol smartphone?
In fact, I am.
Which, okay, product placement. This was a paid placement.
Yes, and also this is the first, but not the last time we will see this phone as the movie goes on.
Do you know what's crazy about this phone? So everyone keep in mind, 2013, 2012, 2013, Androids are still like everybody's on an Android phone kick. Every company wants in because the companies that had no business making phones are now like, oh yeah, we can make phones. This phone was announced in January of 2013. It was discontinued in May of the same year. Which I mean, okay.
It was a competitive market, but wow.
But it's garbage.
That's like some Concord level stuff.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's like Suicide Squad killed the Justice League.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, like run. It's just what it is. But I mean, but they obviously it was paid advertisement. They were trying to make a big deal about it. What is this like? It's like the equivalent of an iPhone 4.
Yeah, pretty much. It was running Android 4.1. AKA Jelly Bean.
Oh, geez.
However, it was launched with the movie. Like that was the idea, is that it was coming out at the same time. And so they did there's a whole commercial you can find specifically with footage of Iron Man 3 and the phone in the movies. But one thing I particularly liked about it is their tagline for it was, showing Tony and Iron Man flying around, and the people using the phone was smart man, smartphone, smart move.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Oh, okay. I know.
So he takes a picture, and obviously that might come into play a little bit later. And then we cut back to stately Stark Manor as Pepper drives up in the 2012 Audi S7 C7 Type 4GA, which, as we all know, is a high-performance version of the Audi A7 with a 4.0-liter V8 engine, Quattro all-wheel drive, and a 7-speed S-tronic gearbox.
Did we ever find out what is the deal with Audi
I know
Tony?
They must have
MCU?
a really good marketing person,
because this is not the end. Like Audi's,
Audi's I think even up through like Infinity War, I think there's still Audi's rolling. I think that's what he rolls up to in Civil War. And yeah, I mean it is an ongoing thing. They must have a pretty sweetheart of a deal between them.
Yeah.
As Pepper gets out, we hear music. He's got some ambient music playing. This is Jingle Bells by Vinnie Zumo. It's a very swinging, jazzy sort of version. It's from a retro cool bossa nova Christmas with Vinnie Zumo. So Vinnie Zumo is a New York-based guitarist who has worked with people like Art Garfunkel and Roger Daltrey. The song is still available on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube. So if you want to add some swinging, jazzy jingle bells to your Christmas playlist, Vinnie Zumo's got your number. Around this night, we see the Pepper's present is sitting in the driveway, which catches her by surprise. It is a giant rabbit. I remember this and that being a thing, but I didn't know that when the trailer came out and this was in it, apparently this was an internet meme for a long time.
Yeah.
People called this the Stark Bunny, and people started writing little bits and stories about it. And so too, it turned into like a bit of a thing for a while until the movie came out. And then it was like, oh, it's just like a two scene gag. That's it. People had a whole thing about thinking this was going to be the next big thing or some major plot point, but no, it was just a giant bunny.
Can I say something that's, I don't know if this is inappropriate to say.
No, you can say it because I actually I know where you're going, and I have the official word on this. So go ahead.
I didn't know this. We didn't plan this.
No, we didn't. I have. You're gonna put something out there, and I'm gonna tell you.
I just want to say that it's interesting. Could have been a teddy bear.
Yep,
right. Not the world's biggest teddy bear.
Originally was a teddy bear.
Okay, but the way this bunny is done is that the paws look like something else.
Yes,
they look like breasts.
They do. Actually, in the first test screening of this, people were like, hey, what's with the bunny and the big boobs?
Yeah.
And they went, oh, no. And so the CG team had to go in and add all this extra like contouring and lines and stuff to make you go, those are its paws. The idea was those are its paws. That's the idea, is it's sitting up and its little paws are sticking out.
No, boobs. I mean, it's pretty funny.
It was actually inspired by a sculpture. So there is a sculpture called Untitled, open parentheses, lamp/bear, close parentheses. I don't know.
No.
By Urs Fischer. So Urs Fischer is a Swiss sculptor, and it was on display in New York for many years. It's a giant. Let me see. I found the dimensions. It's 24 feet tall. It was a big, and it's like a giant stuffed bear with a lamp coming out of the back, but the lamp is almost like fused into the bear. It's a very strange sculpture, and it's gigantic. So this was inspired by that.
Wow.
So that sculpture was on display in New York around the 2010s or so, and it was bought by a collector for $6 million.
Come on.
Yeah. And it is currently on display at the Hamad International Airport in Qatar.
Of course. That's just not. Well, that's funny. I didn't. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the inspired one. But this one is supposed to be a giant plush rabbit. That one actually was a sculpture. But as she comes in, then there's Iron Man was sitting casually on the couch. And she is really taken aback by this. Like, we're just walking around with the suits now. That's where we're at. Really? Okay. Iron Man stands up and she says, "What is this, like Mark 15?" He's like, and then they cut to a close up of the arm where it says Mark 42. He's like, yeah, something like that.
So this is our confirmation. This is where we know there's a lot of suits.
There's a lot of suits. Yeah. And the fact that Pepper didn't know about 20 of them or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or she's not paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's not. Two things I just want to say. So in this, as they begin to have this conversation, again, crazy wide shots of his home.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing it all. Like, again, I love these because one, it's a gorgeous design and it's beautiful. Have we talked now that the 42 is out and about in full array? How do we feel about more mustard than ketchup?
Yeah, not a fan.
This bothered me when they were promoting this.
Yeah.
This suit was not a winner at all.
No.
And this is the primary suit of this movie.
Yeah, we're going to see it a lot.
Yeah.
Over the course of the season. Yeah, I'm not a big I understand a bit why they were going just because of the modular nature of it. So like it looks like a lot of different pieces together. I get that. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the gold. And to be fair, Iron Man, like in the comic books, his original suit was metal. Then his major running around suit was gold. Like he had a gold suit before he had a red suit. I get that. But there is something in the iconic nature of the red and gold as opposed to the gold and red that just doesn't quite do it for me. The mask basically is the same, right? But then all the rest of it being so gold. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this design of this armor. I like the gimmick. I like the modular the pieces and the
sure.
But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. And honestly, for me, it's a tapering off in terms of our armor designs. Like it was sort of they did such a great job in the beginning. That and then the suitcase obviously was a different suit. It was never meant to be that way. And even when they brought the diamond, which was a callback to the Silver Centurion, great. But every other time they introduce a new armor, I like it less and less.
Oh, amen. That is 100% correct.
Yeah,
I didn't know when we were going to have this conversation.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about armors.
No, and we're going to talk about. And by the way, there's a lot more to come. So don't. But I will tell you, to me, it's 3, Mark 3. And then everything, and then Mark 5, because the suitcase suit is actually great, but it's Mark 3, and everything has been below that.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's the combination of like the more CG it gets, the less.
Yeah.
But by the time they get to sort of the final suit, I don't like it at all. Like there's the thing is it looks so CG and fake and stuff too. But even the color design, I just don't. I missed some of the, like, as we're getting into, I missed some of like the hard feel of the actual armor as opposed to just like, I'm wearing a bodysuit. It just happens to be made of metal.
Totally.
As they're talking about the suit and how it fits, as Pepper is talking about the suit and says, you're like, oh, why do you have it up here? And he's like, oh, I'm trying to test it out. It's a little pinchy in the gooey bag. Oh, Tony.
And by the way, she laughs. But I think it's a skeptical laugh.
Yeah.
For clear reasons, but yeah.
Yeah. As Pepper then sits down and pulls out some of the stuff as the Mark 42 is walking around, she pulls out some letters. And so she pulls out a letter and looks at it. So I freeze framed on that one. Mm-hmm. And it is a letter written by a child with a drawing of Iron Man. And it says, "Dear Tony Stark, I wonder how you do all this in your company. I am a big fan. I hope I might be able to visit your company. Sincerely, Mitch B." So,
well, Mitch, thank you for punching Pepper in the gut, because that's insulting. And that's the point of this, right?
Well, I thought the point was Mitch B is a homage to their associate producer, Mitchell Bell.
Yeah, of course. But I will tell you,
think it was a shot because Tony's not.
I think this is. Think about this. This is Pepper. She's just been covered in loveliness by this handsome man from the past. Mm-hmm. He has said to her, "Hey, you're the one in charge now. You don't have the ego. You should be making these decisions." She says no because of Tony. Comes back and sees this kid sending a love letter saying, "Oh, Tony, you're so great. I can't believe how you do all this stuff." And she said, and I really do. I think this is a nudge to her going, "Man, what am I doing here? I'm the one in charge. And here's this kid. Everybody loves Iron Man, and Iron Man's a mess. I know because I'm sleeping with him, and I know what a mess this guy is. Oh, I think that's what the point of this is, which is weird because in the movie you do not have the time to read this note.
No, it goes by very quickly. That's why I wanted to take to see what exactly it was that it said. I didn't get that. I was thinking more that they are doing their best to emphasize that the perception of Iron Man has really changed. That after New York, he is very much a hero, because now we've seen kids literally coming up to him for his autograph, and then we have fan mail coming in from the thing. So we're really getting that thing of like he is an American hero, which we're going to be sort of contrasting as we go along, because then we're getting into the lessons of the Mandarin. But is an American hero? If you look at her reaction, and especially when it immediately then goes to a wide shot, she kind of has a smirk on her face, like, you son of a bitch, Tony. Like, and for obvious reasons, which we're about to find out. So the armor then goes around and says that she looks tense, and then starts giving her a massage. And he says, "Oh, shoulders a little naughty girl." Oh, geez. Oh, Tony. And on that weird, intimate sort of massage, that's unfortunately where our minute comes to an end. Oh no, that's it. That's the end of minute 20. We're not going to find out if the massage actually helps relieve tension or not. Oh, I think it's not going to be great. You'll have to find out in the next episode. Right. Oh no! In the meantime, if you're enjoying what we're doing and want to hear more of it, and even see more of it, because we do some live streaming, you can do so by becoming a member over at truestory.fm/join. Just $5 a month, which is less than the cost of Happy Meal. You get access to, I think you've heard this, the whole pitch before. I think you know what it is. So if you can help out, we'd appreciate it. It helps to offset some of our costs, because bandwidth ain't free. And neither are microphones. So. And neither is talent. That's true. That's true. However, let's undervalue that. I mean, I'm working for free, but that's okay. Yeah, exactly. Results may vary. So, all right. So join us back at minute 21 and on to find out how this goes, and to see as we get into a little deeper conversation of relationship troubles in the MCU. We'll be there. We hope you'll be there too. Enough said. Bye.